Blog Talk Radio. Greetings and Hotep. We are now live and on the air at Blog Talk Radio Station. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. We are also on the live Facebook. Hello to my Facebook listeners, Becky, Fabian, LeVar, Michael Perry. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me on the first day of school. I'm glad you could make it. And class is in session. And I wanted to bring about a discussion on the first day of school. I wanted to start reflecting back on who I used to be when I came in the classroom on the first day of school. And boy, we're going to have some fun this evening. We're going to get into real character. And if you don't know anything about classes, check with Indiana, the state of Indiana, in the area of Gary, Indiana. Most of my students are out there. I want to send a shout out to my past students, my students in middle school, my students in preschool, my students in kindergarten, elementary. How are you? And thank you so much for joining me, Mr. Johnson. School and class is in session. This is the first day of school, and you know the first day of school is always some drama. I want to tell you, it's more than drama when it comes to Gary, Indiana schools. We had a school system that for 5 years in a row, someone was killed on the first day of school. And would you believe it? And running to get off those buses because we didn't know what was going to happen, if the buses were going to be turned over or what. But I want to take you to my classroom. Come on, let me take you to my classroom and tell you some of the events and things that went on there. Gary Community School District. Gary Community School District was a fantastic school district. I even graduated from their school. And I had the greatest teachers that you could think of. I had teachers that literally cared about their students and wanted their students to learn. So I was fortunate. I was very fortunate that I was able to go into a classroom where I knew I was loved. Okay? Now, unfortunately, Mrs. Garth became one of those teachers that loved her students. And sometimes you can be criticized for this. Sometimes you can be told, no, you don't want to take those children under your wing. All of my students were my children. I even took them home with me. I took them out on Friday after the after-school session. We had a venture where we went over to Purdue University and we represented and going on a tour to Mars. So my children are family. Let me put it like that. And you know how family is. Sometimes you have to get down like a surrogate mother. Now, don't judge me, but know that I was acting as a surrogate mother in the absence of their own mother. Now, some of these children came to school like they didn't have no mother and like they had no manners. But nevertheless, they got tamed in Miss Garth's classroom. I ended up getting all the bad boys. They said, let's put these bad boys in Mrs. Garth's class since she thinks she can tame them. Little did they know, I was glad they put them in my class. And I had a chance to rough out a few of those edges and get them to the point where they could communicate. And they were communicating so well that some of them were reading at 4th and 5th grade level when they were just in kindergarten. And then they felt like, Ms. Scarf, you're going to take those kids from kindergarten upstairs to first grade with you. I took them on with me to first grade. But we were in a tribe. We were a drill team. Everything I did, I felt you had to have a drill team because I was bringing forth the law and the order. You first have to get law and order in the classroom before you can teach any subject. So I brought a drill team to Gary, Indiana School District. Even with the babies, the preschoolers, they had to be in drill team. And I started with them first. And starting with the drill team with me, that we had an affirmation every morning that we had to do. I pledge today to open my mind, to seek and to learn new knowledge. My mind and words I speak are clean. I'll obey my parents, my teacher, and myself, and I'll use my education to stay in school. How many of you out there can chant that with me? Most of the Gary, Indiana students know that affirmation, and they adhere to it. And then when I walk in the door and said, attention, they come to order. And then I'd say, students, as you were. And they would relax because children love order. I don't know anybody in their right mind who thinks that children don't love order. Children love order. You got some mealy-mouthed, weak-backed people who can't come in and command order in the classroom, sort of like a judge. And when they look to you, they're waiting for you to give them some direction. They don't care which way it is. Just show them where to go. Sometimes you say, it's not this door, son, it's that door. You have to point them in the right direction. But you first of all have to adduce the knowledge in them because they come to you with knowledge. They don't need you to teach them anything. They're grown folks. You just need to press the knowledge forward. And you draw these children with your love and kindness. With your love and kindness have I. You draw them with love and kindness. And I'm not talking about jerking them around, throwing them down in the seats, cursing them out. See, some teachers think that that's the method to get the child to learn. But most of those children, they fake it. They slide on out of that classroom after they finish sleeping, and they haven't learned a doggone thing. You have to make learning fun. Now, this is your first lesson in making learning fun. Now, I'm getting ready to teach a class. Most of you know about it, the Dean Bond Medical Terminology course, which most people think is one of the hardest courses in the world. However, a few scheduler planners have gotten together with their curriculum and have made this particular topic, science in anatomy and terminology, very, very much fun. Now, I believe that children can learn anything, and you can't go teaching them at the lower level all the time. You've got to teach them at the level of intellect and intelligence and not teaching them baby stuff because they always want to learn a mathematic problem that is a high school level. So I tricked the kids. Yes, I came in and gave everybody A's and said, you all got A's. You got A's until you reduce yourself to the level of a failing grade. You can all pass my class with the A if you come in here ready to perform and ready to adhere to my instruction. You can't fail this way. The only way you can fail is you don't show up and you don't show out. I want you to show out when you go to the board. I don't believe in sitting children down with mimeograph papers. No, you go to the board so I can see your mistake and I can instruct you. You don't have to hide it. We can work it out together. The African is that we start together and we finish together. There is no leaving Johnny behind. No child is left behind in the African concept because we all matriculate together. And what you don't know, John back there makes sure you learn it. So we teach the children to teach each other. And when they go to the board and demonstrate, and I give instructions and I speak the words that they should dictate. They're taking dictation. They like the fact that they are at the board. But then I take them to the typewriter also. Dictation. Which letters did I call out? I'm going to only call the sounds out. Make sure you understand that the sound correlates with the alphabet. So you teach reading that way so you can see their mistakes. And every word has a vowel. Ba, ka, fa, wa, da. And you send them to the board in that manner in a drill every morning. Let them get used to consistency. Get used to a pattern. They will fall in place. When there is no instruction, a lack of instruction causes bad behavior. When you have no instruction, children will act out. Everybody wants to be a part of the game. And everybody wants to know when you're reading the room that they're a part of it. But when they have gotten on timeout, they can't participate. There's no getting on timeout. Team, and your teammate expects you to perform, or else you let your team down. And this is the same way you teach children when you have a large family. And I came from a large family, and everybody had to get in order as if they were in a drill team. So I taught my class in that manner. You are in a drill team. We got so doggone good at it. To the left, to the left, your left, right, left, to the left, to the left. Left, at ease, soldier. We got so good at it that we had drill team masters coming to observe our children from all around the state to see who these preschool kids were that were tapping to the music and to the beat. They came to look at our children, and when they performed, we had a performing arts school where our preschoolers went on stage and we had an audience from around the way. It packed out the house every time we did a Black History play because we were talking about at a time when we were queens and kings. We weren't talking this nonsense about when we were in slavery in 1865. My children would tell you, you're not going to teach me nothing about slavery because I was there in the thick of things back in Egypt when our ancestors kings and queens. So you got to tell the child that there was somebody and make them feel like they participated in the building of this nation and not as slaves. So we got to come out of the slave man mentality and quit talking slavery to them. I took a job in a district in Waukegan where I was contracted in to teach during the dynasty and nothing else, not a word of every one of the teachers that had taught before me for 3 teachers, all of them were thrown out of the school by the children. They said they didn't want to hear nothing about no slavery. And they refused to hear it, and they threw their books out the window. Well, I came up on a great time when I had a chance to teach my children about the geographical area of Egypt. And it wasn't absent from being in Africa. It was in Africa. And in the textbook where they existed and their ancestors existed. And they wanted to know more about who they were at a time when they were kings and queens. Now, I'm telling you what I know. I'm not telling you what I heard. I'm telling you what I know. Being an extra special teacher, being called in on assignments, I took contracts. They didn't just govern me and bring me in as an ordinary teacher. Contracted teacher to teach specific programs. So as you come in, you have a little leadway in making your curriculum reflect who you are. Now, it's not that I didn't believe in the curriculum. When they brought the curriculum in, I made sure I went to the curriculum meeting. I studied the curriculum. I understood the curriculum. As a matter of fact, I went and majored in my master's in curriculum to make sure I understood materials that they were giving us. Gary, Indiana, and I'm going to say this for the record. I hope somebody's listening. Gary, Indiana, the community school at Gary Community School Corporation put up the most money I've ever seen in any district to buy the finest curriculums, and especially the African infusion curriculum. We had the best African infusion for literature. We had the best African infusion to teach our children about all of the dramatic plays and all of the poets and authors. Langston Hughes, that we were also teaching these young children not only about Langston Hughes, but about Maya Angelou, her whole life history. So this infusion of African centricity was infused into the curriculum to make sure we didn't leave anything out about our black stallions and our queens and kings, Queen Nzinga. So as these children got into literature, and I had a chance to experience this curriculum as well, I had the best education that money couldn't buy coming out of Gary, Indiana, at Gary Community School. We're exposed to the finest curriculum. People from around the world, the Jewish people came in to view our Child Development Center, which was so rich with master teachers that they came in wanting to buy our curriculum and to buy our Child Development Center because of how rich it was. Now, let me explain to you, there was a timeline, of course. This is what it started looking like in 2002. And over a short period of time, things began to change, and I'll get into that later. But let me start when we all-time high. It was the pride that we exempt from working for Gary Community Schools, and the fact that we were diehards. We stood out on the line, and we held the line in refusing to let them cut our money. We were one of the top-paid school districts in the state of Indiana, but we weren't going to let them cut our money. We went back and got master's degrees upon master's degrees. I have 2 of them. And we did this to make sure that our children had the cutting-edge material. Now, as I reflect back on the first day of school, our children came in with pressed clothing and iron clothing and smiles on their face because they knew we had a legacy that they wanted to fulfill. And as they came to our school, ready to learn, I was asked to leave the middle school, to come back and to mold our younger children at the preschool level. I thought I was being demoted. What do you mean, preschool? Well, we think you can lay the foundation for us. Will you set up our first kindergarten class and put the curriculum together, the foundation? At first, I thought I was being punished, and I felt like, what am I doing here? I'm a science teacher. What am I doing here with preschoolers and kindergarten? I soon was told that this is a blessing that I'm giving you. I'm giving you a chance to be able to hide out without someone being able to pick you out of a crowd. So when they do the next layoff, you won't be the first to go. Since I had the lesser years, it was a form of protection I later figured out. But nevertheless, the kindergartners that came to us, mandate that they will all learn to read. I will not send any child on unable to read or enunciate and to have early readiness in reading. So I put my time in to make sure that every child could enunciate and could read and could correlate in the communication, conversation, and knew how to debate. I built debate into these children with history. I formalized the World History Bowl for these children to learn how to debate and do a debate properly over the topics that they were studying. So they learned to love history. Because slavery wasn't the first thing taught. They knew about slavery, of course, but we didn't do well on slavery. We talked about the revolts. We talked about Toussaint Louverture, Bookman Dardee, John Jacques Dessalines from Haiti. And they knew the story better than some of the high school students knew. Now, mind you now, our curriculum was lined up for kindergarten and preschoolers and high schoolers to learn the same subject in social studies. So therefore, you didn't have to deviate too much for the preschoolers and kindergarten opposed to the high schoolers. One of the things that Gary, Indiana prided themselves on was having conscious-minded people. There were more PhD professors that taught at these elementary schools per capita, more PhD candidates that are teaching in elementary classes. So they were getting the teaching as if they had adjuncts from a college. So I was proud to be a part of this regime. I was proud to say that I saved the best for last. I came home from overseas able to impart knowledge to my community after teaching all white children for the first 10 years of my life. I was wondering when they were going to get the spook that sat by the door or somebody in the classroom, but I never had that opportunity. So, I beckoned to that call to teach my own community what I had learned after going around the world there to Germany. So, as I came back, they watched to see what methods I was using. And why were my children testing so high and reading at an early age when they came out of preschool? They didn't realize that I was their mother, and they wanted to please me. But somebody caught on and said, I know why they're learning so well. It's because they like you. It's because they like you. Yes, they like me. I was like their mother. And some of them had no mothers that were at home. And sometimes I had to go home to minister to their mothers who were drunken out of their own depression and sometimes out of the bottle. But nevertheless, I made sure I did home visits with these children. I went to their home. I knew their mothers and fathers. I spent time with their mothers and fathers. They were an extended tribe. And that's why I always attach a tribe to whatever I'm doing, because I'm always ready to take in another child, because that's the way I was brought up in a family of 18. There's always room for one more. But we're talking about the first day of school, and we're talking about things that happened when I was in the classroom. I can't tell you that they were all good, because when you get with those middle schoolers, they ain't nobody. And you ain't nobody's mama up in the middle school class. As a matter of fact, they might pull out their knife and pull it on you. But at the same time, you got to talk those down too. You got to bring them down to your level and let them know that ain't nothing waiting out there for them, not even their mother. Sometimes they went home to a foster home. And children I had in my class were for foster homes. I had never met their mother until the last day of school when they got ready to graduate. And then their mothers show up. And they said, well, these children have been taken away from us because we didn't have the money. It wasn't because they were abusing them. It's because they didn't have enough money, and they were living off food stamps to make it. See, a lot of us teachers went in our pocketbook and took money out and paid rent and paid for the registration for the children, because we knew what it meant for that child to come to school. But the system is broken. It's not the parents' fault. The system is damn broken, and it's taking children away because they're warehousing children, and they get paid much money for these children. And sometimes they're sex trafficking these children. So we try to hold on We try to show them a better picture. We take them to our home. We expose them to good things. We take them out to theaters and movies and dinner to let them know there's something else out there besides this rough side of living. So I want you to know that when you are a teacher and you want to come down on these parents, think twice. A lot of these parents didn't graduate from high school themselves, and a lot of these parents did not have proper education, and a lot of these parents had to drop out to work in these factories. So I want you to know it's not all the parents' fault. I had been accused of loving my parents too much and spending too much time with them. I told them I'm fresh back into the country, and I have to reestablish myself. And if my friends have to be my children's parents, then so be it. You don't determine who I make friendship with. And that's the first thing you ought to start shaking hands with the superintendent and the principal. Make friends with the parents and go into the community and make yourself accessible to them and give them your number if need be, because you don't know what kind of crisis they're going to be in. And sometimes they call you and tell you that my daughter done ran away from home and I need help. I don't want the state to find out because they'll take so many children are being taken away out of the family. And mothers are grieving to the point where they're indulging in alcohol and drugs just to stay up. Well, I say stay up to my parents out there, but try to deviate away from alcohol and drugs. There's other ways that you can formalize support groups to support one another. And we're going to have to be able to understand that our parents are not doing all this. Administrative is doing a lot of these things that they should not be doing, while they should be giving children a chance to tap into 504 and to get the services they need when they're special ed and to get the language and reading services they need. Why are so many children, when we have all of these books that are being thrown away? It's because a lot of the teachers don't understand the curriculum, and they cannot read themselves very well, and they do not implement the curriculum in the classroom, and they waste a lot of taxpayers' money by not using the curriculum. And I know what I'm talking about because I've had many of them come in my room and say, Mrs. Gar, can I have a copy of your curriculum? Even learn how to write a lesson plan. So it's so sad. It saddens me when I see that they have had teachers in the classroom on limited licenses for over 15 years. And then they cry and whine about, why am I losing my job? Hell, you've been given a period of 15 years to go back and get credential licensing. And yet you sit in this classroom like nobody is supposed to X you out and dismiss them. You silly rabbit, tricks are made for kids. It's time to go get your license. You cannot sit up in these classrooms pretending to teach our children just because you're babysitting them. No, we don't want this. Let me see who's on our line now. Hello, 929, can I help you? Who am I speaking to? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Listen.
Yes, who am I speaking to? 929, you're in the air. You're speaking with the host, Omiyinka 7.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Would you like to say something, sir? Can you hear me? You're in the atmosphere, and you're free to talk whenever you get ready. We like to hear what you have to say. Hello? Hello? Don't let me have to put my character on. Who am I speaking to? 929-286-1679. You're in the atmosphere. Do you just want to listen? If you do, can you tell me that? Are you ready to say anything? Okay, well then, when you get ready to say something, please do. In the meantime and in between time, I am going to go on with my discussion. Today is the first day of school for most students that live in the Midwest or the in the Turtle Island hemisphere. And I'd like to say, as a history teacher, we really got into the doggone thing. I had children doing world quizzes, World Bowl quizzes at the pre-college level, where we steered our children to go to college. So over the summer, we had a predisposition program called the STARS, and all of the children who were lower socioeconomic children's parents were able to apply for these funds so their children could go to college over the summer. And we did a World History Bowl on World War II, and we published a book. And the college was able to develop a book, a workbook, and questions and answers of things that happened during World War II. And the contributions that African Americans made, Hispanics, Native American, Indigenous, Aboriginals, as well as Hispanics and Japanese. And we talked about all the things that the various different people did to contribute to World War II. And as you know, this is where a lot of reparation was paid to these individuals who participated in World War II, such as the Japanese. And for their loss, they were given a reparation. And our children were learning about reparation. This was 20 years ago. We were explaining to them about why it was necessary for the African American to receive their lot, which was 100 acres of land. And they were all supposed to be given $50. However, they brought over the Scottish from Europe, and in return, the Scottish people were down and out. They were very, very poor, and when they brought them over, they gave them our reparation. As a matter of fact, they gave them our sharecroppers' land, and they received 160 acres of land, and the so-called slaves were made to train these Scottish people into learning how to crop and to harvest their land. And they were given loans to purchase things that they needed to build up their farms. So in essence, we were taking other people from other countries, allowing them to benefit from our reparation. And all of these people that fought in the war were given reparations hands down. I did a show about this already, and I talked about all of these various people that got their share of reparations. Now they're still fighting in the kitchen about why can't they justify giving us this money. You know why? Because when you deem a person to be less than cattle, they equated us to be cattle and not human beings. And we believed it. We internalized this falsehood and not realized that we came from kings and queens. And I don't care if you Caucasians hear what I'm saying out there. I'm not afraid to teach the truth in front of you. You know why? Because there's white people in my family, and it happens all the time, more so than not. And that's why I want you to hear this, because you might not even know your own history. And sometimes you make it very rough for us African Americans. You have depreciated our pensions. You have fought us over our pensions, but I fought like hell in the system to make sure the teachers knew you better fight. After we do all this teaching, then you have the audacity to run down some false information, changing the rules. And I know that African Americans have suffered quite a bit, and sometimes they don't want to talk about slavery no more. I get it. I get it. You don't have to talk about slavery. Talk about a time when we were once kings and queens, and conduct yourself in that manner. And they will begin to respect and treat you in that manner like you're somebody. Just like Jesse said, I am somebody. You need to project yourself in that manner. Children are watching you in school. They want to make sure that you're who you say you are. And when they saw me advocating for every little black boy in the school to intervene on their behalf. They used to come and get me when there was a fight and say, Miss Garth, you better come here quick. You better come here quick because so-and-so is going to get suspended, and you got to help. Yes, I had to help. I had to intervene with those principals and explain to them that the suspension rate is very high for black males. Let's cut down on this. Isn't there an alternative, appropriate procedure that you could do instead of sending this child home to lay on the couch to play games all day and eat bonbons? Don't you? I had to preach these messages to the principal to keep the children in the classroom rather than expulsion. And you know what happens when they get expelled. They have to go to court. And somebody has to decide if that child can get put back in school before the school year ends. I was always in turmoil as an advocate, advocating for our children. So my job and role became well known. I was an advocate. I was something they called Moses. And they used to say, Moses, Moses, lift up your and speak out on our behalf. And most of you who are teachers out there, you're going to have to become Moses if you're going to be effective in these schools. You cannot let your little black boys get ran through the pipeline so that they are situated at third grade. Through their reading capability, they determine whether or not they will be able to go on through school or whether or not they need to build a bunk in the prison for them, because if they don't learn to read, they will go on to become a prisoner. And that at third grade, you can determine which children are earmarked to go to prison. And children know this. So when you have the policemen in the school and they are talking about topics that the children should be customarily to understand, the children are afraid. They don't want to go up to the officer. They don't want anything to do with the officer. And generally, children are curious, and they want to know things, and they come up to you. But children know that the policeman is for their family and their household. And children learn this early in the black community, that policemen are not there to help their family. And it's unfortunate. But what I'm talking about today is the first day of school. What usually happens during the first day of school? Now, for me, and I'm talking about personally for me, I can recall at the high school level, they decided to bring all of the schools together from the east side to the north side to the west side. Now, you know you can't do that. You cannot bring the Bloods over here with the Crips. You cannot bring the roller skate ring over here with the ice skating ring. You cannot even bring an African tribe from the Hausa to the Dogons. You can't bring these people together because they're tribal. And once you bring them together, it is pure chaos, and we must know this. And I have seen a lot of times, you can call in, people. Go ahead and call in. Our phone lines are open at 760-539-3247. I wish that you would call in, and I wish that you would have something to say. We're going to take a commercial break. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I am going to do roll call right now, and I'd like to say hello to my guests here. That is Glenn Bragger, Cedric, Spud or Spuddy, Reginald, John, Robert, Gold, Zach Bach, Bree Collins, Wayne, Katie, Thomas, Alito, Tina Taylor, Mel, Malik, Lorenzo, Louis Johnson, Fabian, and Michael. Hello, how are you today? Now, I've been talking on the things that we did during the first day of school, and as I was saying, that a lot of us went to schools where there was a lot of turmoil, and when people hurt, they want to hurt other people. So these children that went to my school at Westside High, they were hurting, and they wanted to internalize and hurt other people, and wanted them to know what it felt like to hurt. They were in pain. So they have to go to school with white children, Hispanic children, and children that were from around the way who were not in our community. So every year for 5 years, they fought with guns and someone was killed. We were very saddened by this, and we thought that we just didn't love school anymore after we reached the 12th grade. And then there was a time when we went downstate. Towson High had been asked to go downstate to play we all were downstate, and this was in a white community. I think it was Bloomington. And because I think, how the game turned out, there was a big riot and fight afterwards. Buses were turned over. They were fighting. And they dismissed us from the community and didn't want us to come back anymore. And I think it was because they cheated. But racism was running its gamut during the 70s. Very much so. Even when we went to Purdue University at night, we were on television for race riots, and we were fighting for our Black Culture Center, which we finally did get. So we were the type of people who couldn't have been slaves that were beaten because we were rebel rousers, and we did stand up for what we thought was righteous. And there was 500 in my class that graduated, 500 students who, on our 50th anniversary, we will be celebrating the anniversary. And most of these 500 people, the majority of them have made the transition, but there's a lot of them that are left. So we had a chance this summer to bring all classes together so they could come back and unite and talk about the deaths that occurred during the first day of school. I'm sure that's what they talked about. I wasn't there. But I do plan to go to the 50th. But what I also want to say is that I want to send a shout-out to Mr. James Head. He was one of the greatest principals that I ever worked for. He had enough sense to hire me, to bring me in, to prevent a riot. These children refused to sit up under anybody's instruction about slavery. They had enough sense to know that it was time out from teaching that we had no part in history and we didn't play a part in history. They wanted to see when they participated in history. They wanted to see themselves in history. And so I brought the world to them and made it alive to show them that Hatshepsut and Queen Nzinga and all of the kings and queens at a time in dynasty when we reigned and we ruled. And they were very shocked to know that there were Nubian-skinned people who actually were doing these great things. And they hurled me for bringing this to them, to engage them in literature, and Maya Angelou, and reciting Langston Hughes. So this made history become alive to them. And Mr. Head knew that the right teacher could come and bring this to the classroom. So all the children started attending class because I had given them this A when they first came in. And they kept saying, well, Ms. Garza, am I going to keep this A? I said, that's up to you. And a lot of them performed and did very well, and they kept their A. But I believe in helping inner city children have an advantage, a cutting edge, because they're so often overlooked. And there's the classroom full of white children. And you have to do things special for them, buy them things and give them things that they normally wouldn't get if they were at home. Sometimes the mothers just don't have the money to buy them. But when you teach them properly to dress accordingly, we were wearing dashikis back then and headdresses and all kinds of floor-length dresses. The principal couldn't believe the change in these children's dress wear. Their dress wear changed their whole attitude. Their altitude, it caught up with them. And it actually it revered them to feel like they were a part of history. And in changing their dress wear, it made them even articulate and express themselves in a better manner. And they wanted to know more and more about the inside the mummy's tomb. So I took them to a museum in Chicago that had an exhibit on the mummy's tomb and all of the Egyptian mythology. And these children had a chance to learn firsthand who their ancestors were and what their contribution to the world was. And they realized that we were the first who created backpacks and toilet stool seats. And they said, you mean we did all these things and nobody told us about it? Why? And why were so many of these inventions stolen? Because other people went and got the patent on it. The black man could not get a patent on anything, so the white man would steal it and try to be the first to go in and get that patent. So they understood about decorating their library with all of these edifices of the mummy's tomb, all kinds of art. And even in my new book that I'm getting ready to print, I took a little bit of those children with me. I had them to create artifacts for archaeology that they had learned about. And I took these pictures and I imprinted them on my library. I don't know where most of these students are, but I would love to let them know that I took a little piece of them with me, because that year I grew up some. I grew up 10 feet tall to learn things that I never knew about Egyptology. And that made me go on to teach and to lecture about Egyptology and how grand it was. That gave me a position to be an adjunct and soon to become and to be an adjunct, and I later became a professor. I graduated as a professor from a junior college. I thought it was strange. Well, I graduated from a four-year college, but because I taught at a junior college, they pronounced it. So in the book, you can find me there as a professor. And a lot of people say, well, I thought you had to have a PhD to be a professor. But I had so many specialties in the area of history and child development, and I was lecturing, and I was defending my theses, and I was traveling, and I was on the same podium with my professor who introduced me as a professor. So how are you going to argue with that? And nevertheless, I believe in bringing higher learning to children. They will aspire and strive. You cannot bring them just a breadth of knowledge. You got to give them a depth of knowledge. And the scientific method was something that I based philosophy on, that every child had to know about the scientific method. Every child had to understand that the scientific method is a hypothesis that you form as an engineer, and then you begin to gather your data. So preschoolers were explaining this to superintendent. They were like, how does she find the time to teach them about such topics of science like this? I said, because of curriculum. Every child wants to have something brand new and fresh. So don't act like you don't know. It ain't brand new. We all the same. As students, we wanted to know something about something that was fresh and brand new. I had the children reciting from Langston Hughes and Maya Angelou and all of the great poets, because in the South, the schools are set up where most of you learn about their black authors and the theatrical dancers. They learn about this. For some reason in the North, we are so busy learning all about the Caucasians' life. And most children turn their heads and turn their eyes to a jaundiced eye and a deafness that they don't want to hear anymore about Aristotle, Hippocrates. They know what they did. They know that they gained knowledge from the Africans, and they lied about it, and they went and told their people that they learned from the Africans, and they made them drink the hemlock. They made them commit suicide to never speak of African tutelage again. There were so many great Africans that laid the foundation for our children that they could have been taught about slavery. And we're still stopping their slavery with this descendants of slaves. What good does it do for us to be descendants of slaves if we're not taking ourselves out of that state into a higher level, because we're getting ready to rule again? We're no longer going to be second-class citizens worrying about whether or not we have citizenship and has our citizenship been ratified. The whole thing and getting ready to get over the grain house. And this is what we must be teaching our children about: preparation for leadership. You must first learn to be a servant before you can lead anywhere. And a servant's heart is one who will carry others by the bootstraps and pull them up. And when you've gotten up that ladder, then you reach back and pull one of your brothers and sisters. The precepts that we predicated our learning on, that we were a tribe, that we were a group, and that we were brothers and sisters. And outside of that classroom, it still remains true that we are brothers and sisters, and we are each other's brothers and sisters' keepers. So I brought a little the charismatic spiritual into the class, and the children know that I didn't tolerate no stabbing each other in the back or dogging each other out or ranking each other in the classroom. We just didn't do that because, see, they started us to turn on ourselves. And then when we start getting paid for acting out in the community so they can say, look at those niggers and look at how they do each other. No, we just did not carry on in that manner. And there's a sort of dignity that you carry and simplify. But see, right now, mothers are too busy buying their sons a pair of new gym shoes, and they don't have to do anything to earn it. And they're raising their daughters, saying, you're going to go to college, you're going to go to college. And then Johnny is out here just running up and down the court with a ball. He don't have no education, and he barely can read, and they don't think he's going to pass the test to get in the test to get in because his SAT and ACT scores are low. But see, Mother, you got to do a better job of introducing your children to mentors that are male. I don't care if you're not going to bed with them. If he's intelligent, has something to offer, let your child spend some time with the male to help mold him to know what a man does when he becomes a man. When I was a boy, I thought as a boy. But now that I have become a man, I put away those foolish things. Our men are running around here with all these foolish thoughts and no other man to teach them to think different. And mothers, your young boy cannot be the head of the household. Quit trying to make him the head of the household. Put him in a rites of passage program and show them how to come into manhood. It's not when he has 2 and 3 babies in the hood. It's when he decides to marry someone and take care of his seed. It's very important that we get this because our schools are turning into ruin. And it's so sad because now the public schools are leaving the scene. And you've got projects coming to take over the schools. And literally, you've got a situation where private schools are not doing the job. And these choice schools where they have the vouchers. I know some of them can go to the private school, but you got to start your own schools. You got to bring in African curriculum, and it has to be African-centered curriculum. It has to be talking about them. Children don't have that much patience to learn about some other nationality. They want to know what have they done. So, a lot of times I know I'm being censored, and I know somebody's monitoring this show, but I'm going to say just what you want to hear, because as I said before, they have shut down my Facebook and scattered my people. But God always finds a way to bring the people back. All of you were scattered. You're all brand new people. I don't think you know that. I had close to almost 5,000 people, and all of them were scattered because they want to censor what I say. And I can't be censored because the Holy Spirit is speaking. I speak to you with whatever the Holy Spirit gives me, because I want you to be able to make a change, and we change together, because we all are suffering. If I don't make it, you don't make it. We got to become one. I don't care how many ducats you're making. I don't care how high you is up on that glass ceiling. I've been there too. I don't care if you run the company and been the CEO. The higher you go up, you'll still be looking up to somebody higher than you. But nevertheless, we've got to change our hearts to think about one another. We get on these airways and we dog each other out. They become a highway for inflicting pain. And that's why I only come on here every once in a while. I don't deal with y'all people. Because, see, I'm afraid of what I may say to them because I'm fire. And fire burns, and I don't want to hurt nobody. So I try to stay off as often as I can. I try to endorse as much as I can, say the positive things to keep you going. But you must understand this should be a platform for us to come together to talk about what we're going to do charity, not what we're going to do to pull out our pistol. Hal pull her pistol away. She done throw that pistol away. She don't deal with that pistol no more. Hal done found a different way. She done found a different way to use her words. Yes. Hal said, no, can't use that pistol no more. Got to use my words because words are magical. And let me hear you say it. Words are magical. And words will bring a fire up under somebody. And you can use very sharp words. And sometimes I've been told my words are so sharp. And I don't want to hurt nobody. So that's why I stay off Facebook as much as I do. People want me to be on here every other day. I can't do that. I have other radio stations that I'm on, such as Blog Talk and Spreaker. I have 1.8 million people that are following me. Then I got to give homage to. And here on this airway, sometimes I can barely get y'all to say anything. Y'all like agents in the room, and I be saying, say something. And just today was the first day I saw y'all say something. I y'all when I start talking about y'all children. It probably bothered y'all, because we all are concerned about our children. We all want the best for our children. I want the best for your children. And every child, like I said, is some surrogate advocate's child. That's the way we were brought up in the village. Now, if you know any other better way, please tell me. But see, some mothers ain't got no business whooping children when they're angry, and they beat the child down to nothing. You ain't got no business putting your hand on no child when you're angry. You wait until you regroup yourself. Then you go with them. And then if they can't see reason, give them some scriptures. And then if scriptures can't get them to reprove themselves, then take something away. Quit buying so many material things for your children. You can't love them that way. Show them the things they need and reward them for excellency. And we require excellency and require that they get on the and start getting all excited and all discombobulated when you find out they made the honor roll. Oh, Lord, when I found out my child made the honor roll, I was up there every honor roll session. And he knew that it would put a smile on my face. So he made sure he pushed himself to be on that honor roll. And then the high honor roll, then the president's list. And then his last year, he said, Mama, is it okay that I just be on the honor roll and not the high honor roll? I said, son, I don't even care. At this point, you are going into the system with the highest index anyone could expect. Mamas out there, your children they want to revere you. They want to hold you up as their queen. But you got to stop this slutty behavior and attitude and going after men to destroy them. You got to stop going after to create an atmosphere that will cause your son to disrupt his life from going to jail, from putting his hands on somebody. You got to do a better job, mamas. Do you realize we birthed the nation? And if all of our children out there are in chaos, then we created that madness. And we got to put our foot down and say, never again will I perform in that manner. Sometimes they teach you to do dirty things to your husband and dirty things to your children. They teach you to forget about your children and come to the church and work for them by serving chicken dinners. I know, because I spent a lot of days at the church serving chicken dinners when I should have been at home. I spent a lot of time counseling with the apostle, and he tell me that he could counsel with me. And my husband ain't there. No, you can't counsel me without my husband there. And women, you should not be letting him counsel you without your husband there. A lot of this stuff can be stopped if we cut these churches off from doing what they're doing. They're vipers. And let me say something else. All of you who have got itchy ears for spiritualists to do oracle readings for you or to read the cards for you, you must understand that if you are going to unethical people who think you have money to give them, they will cipher all that money out of you. A good reader will teach you how to read for yourself and teach you how to go OB and oracle reading for your family. And she will tell you, if that's their hustle and they got to pay bills and the light bills is due, guess what? They're going to hustle you for something and tell you something in the reading that ain't so to get that extra money from you because they got to pay their bill and you are the next culprit that they are vipering the blood out of. And I know what I'm talking about. And it becomes a shabby business because as I know I'm an oracle reader, you won't see me out here doing no readings, collecting no money from nobody. And I won't even tell you that I can read for you. I'll show you how to read for yourself. And you go home and practice the skill, and you reside oracle readings over your children, your loved ones, and yourself. And stay out of these rooms where these so-called people are going to for you. And I'm saying that because it's very dangerous. I had to get on somebody else and say, no, you ain't supposed to be doing no reading for anybody. You're not above the law. And if this thing should fall and it don't go like you supposed it to do when you're doing your after you do your oracle reading, you also have to have OB. And you also will close that spiritual door the same way it opens. And if you don't, you can get yourself in trouble. So I'm giving a warning to somebody today who come on here pretending that they're spiritual. People know when you're spiritual. You can discern. You can look into their lives. You don't have to tell anybody that. They automatically know it because you'll speak things that resides over them that you know nothing to speak into their lives. But you got a lot of people are charlatans and are pretenders and out here trying to make a hustle because they think a certain way. We all are spiritualists. We were all given a measure of God's grace, and we were made in his likeness, so we are all spiritual. So don't think that you need somebody that has an itchy ear that found out you got a little money, so now they want to read you. No, they want to rob you. They want to take every dime you got and cipher it from you. And they want your credit card number so they can continue to draw money off of that. Don't let anybody read you. Read yourself. Sit down and teach yourself the art. I have classes out here on Blog Talk that you can listen to that will show you how to throw OB and E Kings.
and how to do your sacrifice. Because if they don't know how to do a sacrifice, they're leaving that door open. You can't get anything from God without doing a sacrifice. And if you don't know nothing about sacrifice, you have no business reading nobody. And I'm telling you what I know as a priestess, a high priestess. And if you ask me who initiated me, Chief Metahochi initiated me personally for 5 long years. So I'm saying something to somebody. Don't let this gift you have cause you to be brought up against the higher forces called Olodumare. Will visit you and will warn you about the fact that Babaláws give readings. They can be responsible for what the outcome is. If you should get if the outcome is not right, you can be held accountable. So let people do their own readings. Show them how. Run a class that will teach them how to use their spirit to look into the lives of their children and their husbands and their loved ones. But don't go out here trying to profit a business from doing readings. Get a real job. I work 36 years. You don't need your money. I don't need your money to do no reading. No, I will not do a reading for you. No, I will not cast a spell for you. See, there's people out here that want bad things done to other people. And don't get off into that. Because, see, your karma will come around faster than what you know. The spells are done to protect you and to prevent someone from hurting you. But don't go out there casting, throwing spells on people because the boyfriend has left you, who no longer want to be with you. Now you want them back. Now you got issues going on. Now you all into doing low-down, dirty things. No, I hate a low-down, dirty person that does things behind people's back. Oh, no, I don't like that. And I will read you quicker than anything if I know that that's what you're doing, trying to take a person and you want to do all kinds of readings for them. You're going to cast spells for them. And every time you look up, you cha-ching, you cashing in their credit card. A lot of this is going on out there, and it makes our profession look bad, look really bad. And we're teachers, most of all. We're teachers. And let's get back to this teaching thing. I know I got off on a ranting, raving, but I had to get that in because this is the first day of school. Children are coming back. Now, I can say this, and I know a lot of people may not agree with it, but I do believe that it is not a good thing to integrate our schools. It's certainly not a good thing for us to bring Caucasians to our school to think that they're going to impart knowledge to our children, to their white schools, and think that they're going to rub off white on them and think that they're on probation to become white. And just because your child starts speaking like a daily girl and talking like them, that's going to put her higher up on the list, on the waiting list to become white. No. You want to teach your children to know thyself and know who they are and be respectable of who they frown upon the fact that they come from an African descendant. And don't tell them that I ain't never been no African. No, you haven't. But you have the burnt skin marks upon your face to prove that someone from your family came from that lineage. But you cannot take your children and put them in an all-white environment and expect that it's not going to rub off on them. Oh, yes, it will rub off terribly bad. And sometimes the things they do, we just won't ever do them. But when children get with other children, they're going to become like other children. We have to be very, very careful of putting our children in school or an all-white environment. And I'm telling you what I know, because my children initially were growing up in all-white schools. And I had to come to my senses and said, no, this cannot be what my children are going to result to doing. If they have to go to those schools, then bring them out during the summer months and take them to other communities where there are black children that they can engage with and interact with. But we have to realize that these white schools, just because they're white and have extracurricular activity and have books that recognize, that does not mean our children are going to be a lot smarter. It's better for your children to be in a classroom with all black children and they struggle and learn together. they have dependency. They learn how to pair up and depend on one another. So I'm saying this to somebody right now who's trying to make a decision this school year. Are they going to move their child out of the inner city school and put them over in that Caucasian suburban school? I had my children in suburban school for many years. It was a mistake, and I realized that I could not have my child there. So I had to move to a Lutheran school, one where there were very few blacks, but there were some. And at the same time, he had the exposure of the so-called good book. But we are running from schools to school, and don't tell me that's not true, because some of you are going to run from school to school this year because this school ain't right. He ain't treating him right. This school ain't being fair. This school won't let him play sports. This school. And y'all going to be running from school to school. I know it because I was out there. Thank God that I'm not out there now. And heaven forbid, I was out there. I was carrying my Bible to class, things out in the scriptures. But see, in these Catholic and Lutheran schools, you can bring your Bible and say, wait a minute. Didn't you say to love thy neighbor as thyself? I mean, didn't you say? So how you gonna love God who you never seen and y'all can mistreat my son? No. See, you can go in there with your Bible and it will cause them to repent. They'll say, I'm sorry. We won't let it happen again. So you whoop them with the Bible. And that's what this Bible is good for, to whoop those so-called Lutheran, Catholic, and Christian schools where your children are. You can't go up in there mealy mouth and don't know the scriptures. You got to hone up on those scriptures and teach your child the scriptures so he can fight with his words. My son was quoting scriptures to them. They were like, we just wanted you to learn that in class. We didn't want you to quote that scripture. You said you gave the scripture to me, but you don't want me to use it. So you have to understand that black children don't turn white overnight just by rubbing off on white children. And you don't want your children to pick up every one of their characteristics. You just don't. See, they do cold-hearted, very cold-hearted, and they do very cool things to each other. Now you got your child out here unscrupulous, doing mean and cruel things. Now they're so angry they want to hurt somebody. Now our children should never get angry to want to hurt someone. But you always find these children who are Caucasian who get so angry they want to physically put their hands on somebody or get a gun to do something. And that's why you see all these mass killings. So don't think twice when you need to pull your daughter over and say, wait a minute. Carolyn, Betsy, Joanne, all of them are white. You got to get some black friends in the mix. You got to find some black friends. Could you find something somewhere? And you can tell them just like that. Not that you're being racist, but you don't want them to turn racist against their own nationality, because they will do that. They will tell you that they ain't black. Like some of these girls on these shows, I'm not black. I don't have black behavior. I don't act black, and I don't do the things that black girls do. Then what the hell are you doing if you ain't a black girl? White girls in drag? Because they are certainly copying off their white males. So you are out here in drag trying to be white. So I want to tell you that because our children think differently. They have a different source of thinking, and they have a communal thought that if I ain't doing good, we all ain't doing good. And if I get this degree, I get this degree for all of us in this community. Us got a degree. What's us going to do? And we got to get back into this us concept and we concept, not a pronoun I individually. We got to let them understand that. See, Buddha had it right when he said there is no I, just a we concept. Buddha will teach the children that on one accord, you must remember that if you rob the man down the street, you're robbing yourself. And if you teach children in that manner, they'll realize, what the hell am I doing? I'm taking from my own self. You're bringing down your own community. But mothers, we will have criminals right in our home and won't say nothing to it. No, he hangs out of town that's going in the malls and stealing. No, he's toting a pistol and he's been shooting people, robbing them, and you won't say nothing. You better open up your mouth because God is revering you to say something to get your child on the right track, to let your child know that you love him, so you're going to chastise him. It's very important that we should get more in the chastisement spiel. If you can't do it for yourself, go with your friends and come over to the house and bring your child downstairs and y'all go at it. Y'all go at it like that child's life depends on it. See, I had a lot of people in my house. There wasn't no way we could do wrong because my uncles would all come over and they would take turns, like a wrestling match, getting at us about something. And by the time they finished with us, we wasn't thinking about doing that no more, going to that party or going over there to the beach, hanging out nowhere, because you were going to have all your uncles and aunts on you telling you not do. But mothers are by themselves. They don't have any help to support them in their statements against their children. They're fighting by themselves. And sometimes they don't want to put their hands on them, so they let the child go on. Just go on, just go on. No, you know, just go on. Let me, hold on for a minute. Come on over here for a few minutes. I got a situation over here, and I need you to come over here and back me up. Yeah, it's Junior again. He around here smelling himself, and you got to come on over here because we got to get him straightened out. All right, girl. Shaboom. Call, get on the phone and make that phone call. Make that call. Because some of your children telling you, you tell me what to do. I do that one to do. I'm grown. I'm almost grown. I'm 18 years old. If you 18 years old, you better get that stuff and get on up out of here because I don't perceive myself taking care of no grown. You got to speak to them in that manner. When they said, I don't want to talk, get yourself down here and sit down. You got to let them know you're going to be grown up in here, you're going to be chastised. Because grown folks have to be put in their place, too, by the society. You either let me straighten you out, they're going to straighten you out. And you got to let them know the girls are being taken off this premises, off this earth every day to other countries. They're hijacking girls and taking them to other countries, and they're not seeing their parents anymore. Don't let them quarrel with you. When you get ready to talk to them, you make them sit down. I can show you, baby, better than I can tell you. And you let them know that there are children out there that can't go home, that want to go home. But you got to do something for your children in these schools. Some of them are saying, Mom, I don't want to go to school. Please don't make me. I don't want to go. They're hurting me. They're doing things to me. And they might be doing things to your children. Go up to that school. Well, Jenny, don't make me have to take a day off work to go up to that school. I'm going to lose a whole pay for a whole day. Get on up to that school and find out what's going on that Johnny can't see. Who's bothering Johnny? A mother used to jump on some people about her child. Now you can't get a mother to go to the school to find out what Johnny is telling her. Oh, Johnny, you must be lying. What are you doing, Johnny, to start trouble? Find out. Because children are being pushed out of school. Children are being pushed out under expulsions and told, don't come back. You're on an indefinite suspension. And mothers are sitting at home wondering, how come they ain't called you back to school? Johnny is expelled for the full remaining year. So how is your child going to be tutored? Is there going to be a tutor that comes to the home? Are you going to go up there and mandate your rights that this child needs a tutor? Are you going to let Johnny sit around the house and get involved in pornography, get involved in gangs and all kinds of drugs and dope? Mothers, you could do better than what you're doing. You could understand that it is your right for your child to get a good education. It is your right for your child to be homeschooled while he's on suspension. And you mothers that have signed all this education, I want to talk to you personally right now. Can we get personal? You mothers who have signed your children up to go to these special education classes without even having the child assessed for a language barrier. It might be a language barrier as the reason why Johnny can't read. He might be seeing the words backwards. He might have problems with his vision, but yet you sign off on the paperwork to have Johnny put in a special ed. Now he's on the pipeline to prison. Johnny cannot get a core 40. He's removed out of the mainstream. He will not take language. He will not take science and math. He will be busy reading comic books. No math or science. And you would have signed his life over. He could stay in that class up to 22 years old. Yeah, you got a babysitter. But when he graduates, he gets no diploma. None. Nada, mama. Nada. No diploma. How the hell you going to let your baby sit through school? Oh, my child's getting special ed. He's getting help with his reading. He's coming on with his math. And all these teachers are helping him. He got like a 4-to-1 ratio, so he's got teachers all around him. But what are they teaching him? When he come out, he has a certificate of completion. Not a diploma with the core 40. Not a diploma that said he can go to college, but a certificate. Do you hear me, mama? A certificate, which is not good enough for anything but trampling over. And you haven't went to talk to that principal yet about mainstreaming him back this school year. And that's why I came on this air. I want y'all to think about mainstreaming your special ed children back in the classroom and letting them do a pull-out for those areas that he's weak in. And demand on your IEP that the first thing on there is that my child will learn to read. I don't care if you have to bring the top-notch specialists in to teach your child to read. Bring them in. Because in the book that I'm writing, I'm mandating that every black boy that comes out of school must learn to read. If you cannot teach them with your normal teachers, then bring your Harvard Scholastic teachers into the school to teach reading methods to the teachers. And if they don't pass the reading methods program, then put them out of the school. They're dismissed because they're not teachers. Yes, I know to teach children how to read. I went back to school to get a second degree to learn how to teach English as a second language. Our children are speaking Ebonics. English is not their first level of language. Ebonics is. But we must know that. We must not crucify them because they come to school with fewer than 5,000 words, and we must understand that English is not their first language. The Orthodox language is the second language. Ebonics is a regularized code. We speak that in our communities, in our homes, and that's what we're accustomed to. We speak two languages. And sometimes the white folks don't know what we're saying when we use our Ebonics. And they know they don't. Well, I can't understand Caroline because she always shortens her I's and leaves out her S's and her T's. The TH sound, she can't pronounce that. And, sometimes she can't pronounce the STH sound. And, you know what I'm talking about. She's got to go speak. She's got to go speak. You recommend your children be put in speech. Every one of you mamas who got kindergarten children who are borderlining on the deficit where they can't enunciate, put them in speech. Recommend that they go in speech. It's not a label. It's a service that all of the Caucasian and the Hispanic children are taking advantage of. Do you know that they have sheltered classrooms for the Hispanic children who come in with bilingual, who don't speak English? They get to go to sheltered classrooms to learn about their culture. Yes, how to socialize with the culture. How many of your black children have learned anything about socializing with understanding their culture? We're being deprived. our Hispanic children are getting what we're not even paying our tax dollars to get. We're giving it all over to the immigrants. And they come up with the sheltered skills, and now they're speaking English and Spanish, and they know their culture. So they're trying to figure out how to mainstream them back in the classroom so they can get their Core 40 while your children are absent of their Core 40. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Did you not know your special ed children are worth something to the tune of $10,000 per once they go into special ed? It's a moneymaker and a way to segregate your children in the public schools with white children. That's why they create it, so that your children will go down the hall to special ed to the short bus, and the other white children will go over here to the long bus, and they will be mainstream and given all the help they need for their speech and whatever. And when they graduate, they can decide if they want to go to college or not. They've had the Core 40, the language, the math, and the science, so they qualify to enroll in a college. Whereas your special ed like that, don't stick around because you become the clown. You will not be going to college. I know this. And I've seen it firsthand. I wouldn't lie to you. But what I do want you to understand, you have some power. You have the power of the pen. And you can revoke your signature or you can give it. And God gives you the ability to make that decision. Don't put such a burden on your child, because now he'll be known as a dummy the rest of his life, someone who can't learn. And we know all of our children can learn if teachers take enough time to put in with them. Most of these white teachers don't care if your child learns or not. You put them in a white school, they'll say, oh, we're going to retain Johnny. He's just not learning to read, and I cannot teach him to read. Well, it's your problem. That's not Johnny's problem. That's your problem. You get the children who you need, and sit down and teach my boy to read. You're getting paid for it, aren't you? If you don't, I'm going to the superintendent. Put the defense on them. And if it's a black teacher telling you, well, I've tried everything I could with Johnny, and Johnny just can't seem to get his vowels together. He keeps getting his consonants mixed up with his vowels. And every time I tell them, Johnny, I play a game, the first one usually says his name, the second one knows he cannot speak, he needs to go for sleep. You know, Johnny can't get that right together for nothing. And you tell Miss Thing, look at here, Miss Thing. My taxpayer dollars pay you to teach my child to read. You went to school to teach, didn't you? Right? Well, then get at it, and if you can't, I'll be visiting the superintendent. You got to understand, you got some power here, parents. This is the first day of school. This is when you let people know how powerful you are. Go down to the superintendent's office with him about the conditions of your schools, not only on the inside of the building, but what goes on in the classroom. Don't be an absent parent where you run off after you done dropped off your preschool or your kindergarten and you don't care what's going on and they're subject to abuse. You're dumb. You're stupid. How come you can't learn this? No, you don't talk to children like that. They come here hoping that you will reduce the knowledge that's in them, not to abuse them verbally. A lot of children are being abused verbally in the classroom, and corporal punishment is still going on in some of these classes. And go in there, sneak in, and make sure nobody's putting their hand on your child, because corporal punishment is not in effect. They have no business spanking your child. If they want your child spanked, call you up there. You can take that child home for an hour and whip his butt good and then bring him back. But you have to be the one to do that. But at the same time, the young children need to have some redirecting, or else you're going to let the child grow up like a weed. So we've got to understand the first day of school got to be a different first day of school. We cannot be letting these things happen in our school and our administrator stealing money, every other superintendent being called on theft and being put on suspension with pay. So they're still getting paid while they're at home, and your taxpayers' dollars are still providing for that fee. Now, I'm saying this because I walked away from the school system. I had a lot more gifts in me that I wanted to challenge, a lot more. And one of them was music. I thought I had a great opportunity to get back into my music, something that I enjoy. So I gave my notice at work. And I knew that I was not going to recover very well. But at the same time, I said, well, this is it. When I go home, I won't be coming back. Now, sometimes administration won't support you. They won't support you in your days off, your time off. They won't support you in your academics. But as I was saying, Gary was a good school district. They were supporting me in my academic, as much schooling that I wanted. They would make sure that I got reimbursed for it. I had no problem with that. But that would start going down. They didn't care if the child learned or not. Just make sure you get those test scores up there by any hook or crook. And people became human robots pushing these children to retain information and large sums of information. I saw that too much time and attention was being put into preschools and kindergarten for testing. My God, where is the graham crackers and the blanket and milk and cookies and laying out on the blanket and taking your time to think things through? And where's the play, learning? And it was a hurried life for the preschoolers and the kindergartners. And I began to see that it was other things I could do after I went back and got my credentials for English as a second language. I could even take a trip abroad and go there for a year just to teach Spanish children how to read and conversate, or Chinese children or Asian children. And I said, this is a great opportunity to travel. So that is a door open. And I had so many doors. Spoken word poet, and my poetry was getting to be known, and I had opportunities to travel, and I couldn't take off work to get to those occasions. And then when I had my skills on salad gigs that actually got me gigs, I couldn't go because I was in the classroom. But I began to see that the teaching was a hindrance for me. I needed to get out and lecture as a visiting lecturer. So I decided to take retirement because my health was going down the drain. My leg, which I knew was not going to get any better, and so I left on a disability. You know, I had injured myself at work, so I said, yes, I must go home. You know, my leg is important to me, and I don't want to have a problem with amputation. So I decided to make my school at home, and I made myself available. I took my funds and I opened up an actual brick and mortar space where I continue to offer classes for co-parenting. And I went right in the community and I brought in ministers that were actually volunteering to teach my classes. I had a large class. People were following me. They wanted to learn more about co-parenting resolution and how to become a co-parenter. So we offered this class with the judge endorsing us. So my school became home. And, I said my school became home. My school continued to have a residence in a brick and mortar building. And it got to be so expensive that being paid. I was just paying everybody else. And I said, well, I can't just waste my pension this way. But at the same time, people knew I had the school, and I always said, if you want to read, come to my school, and if you want to learn about co-parenting, because, see, parents were being summoned to go to court. They had to take co-parenting resolution if they went through a divorce or if they lost their children. So this judge had written a curriculum, and we had collaborated our curriculums to bring in African Americans to take co-parenting resolution. We didn't get 6 credit hours. So we were endorsing people. And I found that you could reach far more people when you are the superintendent and you don't have all this red tape and bureaucracy to cut through. And there's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape that causes a good teacher to not to want to be in the system anymore, because you've got to go through this bureaucracy to get something done. And a lot of us, we're allergic to bureaucracy. We don't, and we're on this waiting list before you get called in to get something done or to bring some new flavor to the district and to incorporate new things. I started seeing the buildings deteriorate and the classrooms too. And all of a sudden, it wasn't the same school that I was accustomed to being in. I said, what happened to the pride that we once had? And then all of a sudden, I started seeing schools close. I said, what is going on? Is all the schools falling apart? Is there a building? And it wasn't just that the buildings were falling apart. They couldn't get enough money to rehabilitate the building. And then they would move a group of teachers out of one building to the next. So in my mind, I said, I better leave while things are good. I better leave while things are good. And I did leave on a good note. I was given a bonus and sent away with a big party. The city broke out a big party for me and everything. So I was quite pleased, with my peers, that they were still hanging in there. And I did go back and do some volunteering for them and appear in their classrooms. And they were so much hating me because I had gotten out. I said, one day I'm going to write about how I got out of the madness and how I made the decision, being that I love the children so well. And they kept saying, how could you leave your children? I said, look, just like you leave your own children and kick them out of the nest, that's how you leave. I said, they're going to be all right. They're going to land on their feet. Sometimes your friends can make you feel bad that you're not out there. I said, I'm doing more work now on this radio show than I ever had. I started interviewing anybody that has something to do with children. I started putting the word out there that third grade was the grade when children needed to be reading. Otherwise, they were making plans to create a space for them in the prison system, and we got to do something about this illiteracy. So I was on a campaign to teach children to read. A campaign to teach about literacy, how to become an early literacy coach and teach children how to read. And that's one of the things that all my followers here, if any of you are interested in becoming a literacy coach, let me know, because we had a program that was mapped out for child care centers for all their teachers to become a literacy coach so that they could go into various different communities and teach other teachers how to teach children to read. So what I'm saying is that I'm hoping and praying that this first day of school will be different for a lot of you parents, and that when the first lesson is taught that in reading, that you go to school and you listen to how your child is matriculating with reading. If you discover your child has some reading deficits, immediately request that they go to speech. Don't be ashamed, because those early speech classes will help. We had a child that was actually deaf, and we didn't discover it until we put him in speech classes. He never spoke in the class, and they put him in my class, and so I put him in speech, and I said, something's wrong. He's not hearing. So come to find out, he had lost like 50% of his hearing, and once he gained his hearing back, he was able to speak. And the mother was so proud and so happy that her preschooler was speaking. So you can do a lot of wonderful things in the preschool class to help the mothers. I had children coming to me that were babbling. They weren't even talking. I'm like, this child cannot be put in preschool. She is not articulate. I can't understand anything she's saying. And the mothers would say, well, if she be in your class for a while, she'll learn. I said, no, we got to take her home and wait till she stops babbling, then you bring her back. But I gained a lot of friendships from the mothers in the preschool and kindergarten class. A lot of them became my favorite friends, and some of them I recommended for the Parent of the Year, and they went down to be rewarded. So I value my parents, and that's why I opened up a Parent Resource Center. And that's what I came on to tell you about, that each of you who are home can open up a parent resource center in your home. And I have a whole training kit to teach parents how to be a resource center and start from your home to help those children with differentiated learning and the parents who have special needs children to get resource material from your center. And there's grant funding where you can answer RFPs and you can request to apply for this grant funding to help you. And if you don't get the grant, you can apply for the technical assistance. I received the technical assistance back in, I think it was 1994 it was, and it was a windmill grant, technical assistance for training. It allowed me to bring in video experts and specialists to put our whole class on television and to record it so that we can have it television ready. It is now ready for television. It's a 3-part series on, it's called the African American or the Black Parent-Directed Resource Center. Parent-directed, and noted that I said Black, because these resource centers you can open up, stressing any denomination or nationality, whether it be Jewish, whether it be Japanese, whether it be Caucasian or African American, Black African American. So this is stressing Black African American self-directed resource centers where you put the resource center together according to the guidelines and you list yourself in a directory in the community to let parents know you're available to assist them. And there's government funding to help you get these systems set up. And if you have special needs children, you are qualified under Section 8 to apply for a government position working with rehabilitation and special needs children. So you can apply for these funding to help you to set up your family resource center in your home. I have 3-part videotapes to go with this, and I'll soon have my effects that females have on African American males booklet with a workbook to go with it called the Anti-Bias Proficiency, so that all of my training and curriculum instruction helped me to formalize my own training material. And that's why I went into the graduate degree, so I can develop my own curriculum material, and people can buy from a Black person for a Black person by a Black person. So I did want to tell you that. And don't let the first day of school be horrible for your child. Make sure that if they're kindergartners, you go to school with them. You go to the orientation. If they're preschoolers, you go to school with them, because statistics have shown that mothers that get involved with their kindergartens and preschool, those children stay in school, and they tend to do very well, and they go on to college. Statistics will back me up on that. And I wanted to say that you have to have a commitment with your father, with the child's father, that you do co-parenting. If some of you have children right now and you have visitation rights for your husband, go to the co-parenting class. Look me up. I will show you how to get in a co-parenting class. And the co-parenting class is going to show you how to do visitation with your ex-husband or the baby's daddy. And it will also show you how to do age-appropriate activities with children. And that's what the government wants every divorced woman to do. Take the co-parenting class for 6 credit hours. I'm telling you, if you're a divorcee, that in every state, I think about 48 states, they require that now. If you haven't heard of it, look it up. Do your due diligence. But that's what we're pushing these days. We're pushing parent information centers and co-parenting resolution. I believe in working with the parents. Sometimes you can't save a teacher because she's too far gone. She's fed up. And when a woman's fed up, you can't tell her nothing. So, even though I think the teachers need to go back for training and get additional training, we're going to have different types of teachers that are coming out, and they're not going to be the same kind of teachers that we were. A lot of it's going to be digital, on Skype, on Zoom. I think that's great, because as I talk to you right now, I consider myself as a digital teacher. So I want to thank each and every one of you and do roll call. And let me see who we got here, who's still with us today. Got a large group in here. Let me see. A lot of people came in. Just going to call your names out. Okay. Nagaga, how are you? Greg Charles, Patricia, Constantine, Claudel, Robert Robertson, Paul Rogers, Kathy Clark, Glenn Bragger, Cedric Hall, Stephanie Burnham, Spuddy Jakes, Reginald Bradford, John Wesley Carter, Robert Jackson, Bold Berry, Bree Collins, Zakba, Wayne Katie Hill, Thomas Anderson, Jabulani Abada, ABO Jabali Abadella, Tina Taylor. I like that Tina Taylor. Sounds like Tina Turner. Melwell, Malak, Lorenzo, Lewis Johnson, Becky Vanson, Fabian Lavar, Michael Perry. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm not sure what's going on with my blog talk here. Somebody came and kidnapped me. I was in the middle of talking to some people on Blog Talk, and then they just kind of kidnapped me, and I don't know. But nevertheless, this is the first day of school for most people in the Midwest. I hope you parents are going to school with your child, finding out about what their book list says, what materials they need, and making sure they bring home their books. Now, children are getting into these digital books, and they'll say, Mom, I don't have no books. I ain't got no books. I ain't got no homework. You don't want to do homework. Make up some homework. Get your own homework and create it for your children. Get their writing skills together. If you know, like I know, they're going to have to take a test, and they're going to have to be able to pass the writing aspect and the reading and the math. And they're going to have to know how to write a sentence and know how to write a paragraph and give you in the beginning and in the conclusion. They're going to have to learn how to write. And this could hold them back from graduating with their core 40, making sure they pass these tests. And they want to test our children out. So mothers, you got to start going to the libraries and getting samples of tests to help your children learn how to test well. The ACT, they can take it as many times, and the SAT. Get those scores up there and make sure that they. I think by 8th grade they start taking. I'm not sure which test they're taking now. Don't even get me lying. They've changed things so much. But nevertheless, I'm a teacher, and as much as I tried to get out of being a teacher, I have been everything, and I have tried to exit my way out of being a teacher, but somehow they always found me and brought me back. I guess love brought me back. I would leave the profession, and they said, but aren't you a teacher? And I said, yes, but it was convenient when I had young children. After a while, I wanted to be in the private industry, and I worked in the private industry, and I had a chance to abandon the classroom for a long time, working in the private industry. And believe you me, it made me grow up real fast, being in the private industry, because I wasn't up on top of things. I was a person that was in the classroom, and all I knew to talk about was things that pertained to the classroom. I wasn't in on the current event when it came to being in the private industry. But nevertheless, school will always be in my heart, and the first day of school will always mean something to me, and it will always be a pertinent time in my life. And even as I view the kids on television, I just view myself in the midst of tying up somebody's shoe, helping somebody to get to the bus, or bringing someone home. So as a school teacher, sometimes, they're real, genuine, McCoy school teachers that are real. We got a lot of phony teachers who are there just for the check. you can't just be there just for the check. You have got to make sure that you're there to make sure that you have a love for learning and to make sure that these children really develop a desire for reading. Once you put them on a path and give them a desire for reading, you've got them hooked in. That you can take any person to college who learns to read and read well for themselves, and especially learn to comprehend. Because a lot of children don't learn to comprehend. They have comprehension problems. So go over things with your children and say, what did you learn from that paragraph? Can you recite to me a summary of what you read? And silent reading is okay, but we must learn to teach our children to read vocally so we can hear where they stumble over words, and also read with your children because they press their lips to your lips to learn how to pause and to stop and to breathe when you breathe, so that they will understand that reading is like singing. And a lot of songsters get away with being able to be good readers because they sing a song, they sing a paragraph, and they can remember it. They can internalize it. But don't let our children walk away from the school without a diploma when they graduate. Please don't, mothers. Do something about that. Advocate on that. Go to your superintendent and say, I didn't know that our children were graduating without a diploma who was in special ed. Also, request that I come there to do an assessment with the principals to go back over their placements in special ed and see how many of those children who should have gone to English as a second language instead of special. Then you can get them back in the sheltered classes and back in the mainstream and with the core 40 and save the child. So let's save our children this year. Let's do something about it. Let's join the PTA groups and be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. You're not just bringing your child to the school to be babysitted and then you close the door and you don't know what's going on. Always find out what's going on with your child's curriculum. And if you don't know what curriculum your child, ask for a special demo and learning what curriculums are being used in class with your children. Then go home and buy that curriculum and have it in your home. That's the best investment you can give your children. And I'm saying this because I know a lot of us are natural-born parents. And if you're a natural-born parent, you're an automatic teacher. And no amount of education couldn't have taught me to be a teacher. It was in me to be a teacher because I was always teaching somebody in my family younger than me. So I had to learn that through wanting my sisters and brothers to learn to read like me. My sister taught me to read. She's 86 years old. She was the most fluent reader I ever saw. And she only went to the 11th grade. But she went back and got her GED after she was over 50. And to this day, she's blind. Times want to get her Braille material, but everybody says, oh, it's too late to teach her Braille. So I guess I'll get her the reading books, auditory reading books that she can listen to. But I treasure her for teaching me to have a love for reading. And I challenge you to teach your sisters and brothers how to read or your children and make that the main thing, that literature will be what you purchase for Christmas gifts and occasion, so your children can read about the great authors like Nina Simone and read about Harriet Tubman, and also request that I come to your school to do the one-woman show for Harriet Tubman as I give the history proclaim of Harriet Tubman. So this year you might see me out in your community because I will be marketing my own material as well as the effects that females have on African-American male. That is completed now. We're just formatting. We got the cover. I put the cover out there so some of you can see it. I probably will be doing reading a couple of chapters from the audience so they can see what the book in detail. And we're going to make this book affordable for everyone so that they can have a copy of it. So I want to thank you so much for joining the school as I reminisce over the classroom and what I used to do in the classroom. And as I broke up all these fights at Cooney Elementary, I don't miss that school. There was a fight just about every day, and I don't know what the children were fighting about, but they must have been hurting so bad. And I formalized the drill team to take away some of the pain. I saw them coming back to life. And our principal she gave them bags of candy. And what this candy was going to do was going to destroy their teeth and their body and make them habitually addicted to sugar. But nevertheless, we had these kind of people in our school district that didn't know what our black children needed. And they gave them sugar, which is a form of dope. And a lot of children get hooked on sugar, and then this white powder is to consume. So we got to do better and got to help formalize our own schools so that our first day of school for our children will be the best that they can ever recall. And we can play a part in our schools. Go up and volunteer for your schools. Get into these classrooms. Don't let them shut you out. I always kept an open door policy that any parent is welcome in my classroom. You don't have to be announced to get an appointment. You can come in, but you're going to be a teacher when you come in. Most of the parents that came in my class, they were worker bees. I had many worker bees, so my class was always decked out. I had parents working on the bulletin board, parent posting the child's work on the outside of the board. So we had a Cadillac classroom. Our class was spippity-dippity, and it had everything you thought you wanted, and it helped me. When my aide refused to come to school, I said, great, I can bring the parents in now. We had a discussion with the aide about, well, she never uses me. I said, well, wait a minute, you never here at work, so how can I use you? And I must use my parents. They started complaining, why are all these parents' cars parked out here? We don't have nowhere to park. Mrs. Garb has most of the parking space. No. We have commitment from parents that want to be there for 2.5 hours. What sense does it make for them to go all the way home and come back? Let them go in the parenting room and let them be taught. So we started up with the parenting center so that the parents could come up there during the time their child was in school and be taught parenting skills. I think everything is parents. The teachers are not important, the administrators are not important, but the parents are very important. And I view them very highly because it is the child, a parent is the child's first teacher, the first teacher. And as I honor and respect the parent as the first teacher, I give the parents homage today. Not the teachers, but the parents, because you are the first teachers. And never forget that. Oh, devil, and Bubba Boy to you, y'all.